This episode brought to you by Doc Hopper's French Fried Frog's Legs. Try our pig, frog, and whatever combo. 4 frog's legs, 4 strips of applewood bacon, 4 cheddar cheese, 4 jalapenos, 4 mushrooms, and 4 barbecue sauces, served on our trademark Green Bud. Make it a combo with fries and a drink for just $4 more. Previously on Did I Get What I Paid For?
This was fun, but I don't want to do it again. So I came up with this.
What is this supposed to do?
Jess is plugged into the smart TV, which has a Bluetooth link to that comm badge, which has a subspace link to computer. So, in theory, if we put these headpieces on, computer should allow us to enter his head and go get him.
I've always wanted to try this. Let it rip! You can't go in there.
We're here to help with the review for Did I Get What I Paid For?
That's a private screening room.
Private screening?
You know this show. They are afraid to show these movies in public.
I cut now you took my says cut ups. Give the M but act.
Is this how Parody Era Films really got started?
No, this is a review of the Muppet Movie. Our story begins as Statler and Waldorf pull up to the security guard at Worldwide Studios. They tell him, "We are here to watch the Muppet Movie." The guard tells them that's a private screening. Statler asks, "Private screening?" Waldorf says, "Yeah, they're afraid to show the movie in public." This was a sign to those who loved the Muppet Show. In spite of the cheap rating, this movie was going to be just like that. You could take your kids to see it, and they would enjoy it, but it was going to be very much like the Muppet they knew at home, only on a much bigger scale. And this is proven in the very next scene when we see the screening room. All the principal Muppets are there, even some relative newcomers like Lou Zealand and his boomerang fish. Kermit's nephew Robin is excited about the movie. So is everyone in the theater with Statler and Waldorf. They're so excited that they don't want to listen to Kermit's speech thanking the sound people and costume designers. Once Kermit sits down, Robin asks, "Is this really how the Muppets got started?" Kermit says, "It's approximately how it happened." Kermit starts the movie and we get a song. Not just any song, perhaps the greatest song written for a movie ever. Rainbow Connection. If you've watched some of my other episodes, Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn gorilla, you know I tend to regard music as annoying padding. My problem isn't with songs in and of themselves, it's just that music in the movies that I tend to review, they're padding. The writers know it, and the audience knows it. The music in the Muppet Movie addresses themes relevant to the movie. It gives us a sense of who Kermit is as a person. It creates a sense of longing. It reminds me of the call to adventure first described by Joseph Campbell in The Hero of a Thousand Faces. I never thought I'd hear myself make that comparison, but there it is. Once Kermit finishes singing, he comes across a guy lost in the swamp. He gives him directions. They exchange banter. The guy says, "If you're ever in LA, look me up. I'm Bernie the Agent." Kermit says he's happy in the swamp. The guy says, "That's too bad. You could make millions of people happy." Kermit says he'll think about it. And he does. Long and hard. For about 30 seconds. Then he hops on his bike and goes to town. He's not gone more than 5 minutes when he comes across a construction site. It turns out they're building a fast food restaurant that serves frog legs? This angry Wayland Smithers type is directing traffic, and he starts seeing dollar signs in his eyes. Unfortunately, there's a traffic accident, and it looks like Kermit is flattened by a steamroller. He hops away at the last second, and his bicycle is destroyed. He makes it to town, but is on the wrong side of the tracks. He winds up at this dive bar called the El Slizo Cafe. You'd think they'd be doing better since the owner is James Coburn and the piano player is Paul Williams. But again, everyone eating dinner is having frog legs. Coburn might be hard on his luck, but Kermit gets hit on by Madeline Kahn and Carol Kane. But that's just the warm-up. You see, Paul Williams reveals the night's main event, the local king of comedy. I've already stated the place is down in their luck. Their main event is Fozzie, and his act is, well, it's Fozzie. It's so awful that it almost causes a riot. Kermit tells Paul Williams to play something snappy. Kermit and Fozzie do this sort of song and dance routine to distract them. And it works! No, it doesn't. There's still a bar fight. But Fozzie manages to duck behind the counter and disguise himself as the bartender. He says, "Drinks are on the house." The whole crowd goes up to the roof because, yeah, it's a Muppet movie. They are such fast friends that Kermit invites Fozzie with him to Hollywood, which turns out to be a good thing since Fozzie has a car. Or at least his uncle's car has been temporarily transferred to his name. They hit a roadblock. It's Doc Hopper, the frog leg guy. He wants Kermit to be their new spokesman. He even shows them his current TV spots. It's a great parody of local TV ads. It shouldn't be that surprising since Jim Henson made a big portion of his career doing those from the late 1950s to the early 1960s. Kermit says he won't do it. So Hopper assures him he'll be paid. It's $500 to start, and who knows, he could make that much every year. Kermit still refuses. Fozzie considers the job, but Kermit talks him out of it and they drive off. Doc Hopper and his sidekick Max do one of those classic vaudeville follow that car bits. It's corny, but the joke is so well executed that I simply don't care. Moving right along. That's a song. It's a great song too. It shows how these two characters who have just met are thick as thieves. Not only that, but we get a cameo by the one and only Big Bird. The real toe tapper is interrupted when Kermit and Fozzie see a Doc Hopper billboard with an unlicensed use of Kermit's likeness. Doc Hopper pops out and offers him one last chance. Kermit says all he sees are thousands of frogs on crutches. We cut over to Max, who looks racked with guilt. Kermit and Fozzie drive off. Max shows some backbone for a second and stands up to Hopper. Then Hopper offers to double his cut of whatever money they can make off of Kermit, and he's back on the Doc Hopper train. Kermit and Fozzie are arguing over directions. They realize they're both looking at the map. Neither one of them is driving. Fozzie almost crashes into a church. They've been driving all night and into the morning, so they decide to stop and nap. They are soon awoken to the sound of Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. Oh yeah, and Scooter. They're converting the abandoned church into a coffee house. I wonder, do they serve Billikens coffee? If they don't, you just don't go. Kermit and Fozzie try to explain their situation. Only Kermit says in order to not bore the audience, Dr. Teeth can just read the script. Only he does so aloud, which puts Kermit and Fozzie back to sleep. Now understanding their plight, the Electric Mayhem want to help. So they repaint Fozzie's Studebaker to act as a disguise. Which leads to the rockin' song, Can You Picture That? It's the only one in the movie that is almost padding, but it's a funny song with some great visuals. I remember this being one of my favorite parts of the movie as a small child. Dr. Teeth and Company say farewell to Kermit. They aren't coming along, but if Kermit is successful, they might stop by and sleep on the couch or otherwise exploit him because he would owe them a huge favor. Hopper comes along, even when Fozzie parks in front of a billboard painted similar colors to their rainbow Studebaker, the disguise doesn't work. They get away more out of Hopper's own stupidity than anything else. Cut to Gonzo driving his plumber's truck down the road. But you never introduce a car driving the opposite direction from your heroes unless you intend to crash them. So the plumber's truck ends up on the roof of the Studebaker. They tell Gonzo about their dream of going to Hollywood to become movie stars. He says he has a similar dream, only his involves going to Bombay. But if they're going to Hollywood, fine, he'd rather do things the easy way with friends than his own insane way alone. So they go to a car lot to get one used car they can take together. They get $12 for 2 cars. Look, I know there's been a lot of inflation since the 70s, but that still seems like a bit of a ripoff. Unless the low trade-in was because Jack had to get the plumbing truck off the roof. Computer, that's a picture of Sweetums. Where's Jack? Oh, right. Jack's not his name. Jack is his job. Well, until Kermit tells him about the Hollywood thing, then he runs off. There is one car on the lot that doesn't seem like a lemon, but it costs $1,195. Due to an accident while swatting a fly, everyone thinks it costs $11.95, which is well within Kermit and Company's price range. They sign all the papers and leave. Then Sweetum comes back with a suitcase and wonders where they went. Then he starts chasing after them. The gang decide to take a pit stop at the carnival. It's a cameo parade. Elliot Gould, Edgar Bergen, Charlie McCarthy, and quite a few others. But more importantly, they see the end of the beauty pageant. This being the Muppet Movie, the winner is Miss Piggy. And we get another song. The images accompanying Never Before and Never Again are about as sexual as I expected the Muppet to ever get. The Happy Time Murders proved me wrong. As for the song itself, it's a great parody of all those super sappy, pretentious love songs that movies have been trotting out for as long as talkies have been a thing. The fact that Frank Oz can't sing while in his piggy voice only makes it funnier. Plus, it tells us everything we need to know about Miss Piggy. Kermit tells Piggy about Hollywood. Fozzie wants some ice cream. Kermit asks Piggy if she'd like to come along. She says yes. Meanwhile, Gonzo and Camilla run across balloon vendor Richard Pryor. Gonzo asks Camilla what color balloon she'd like. crier tells him to really impress the lady, get her all of them. So he does, only Muppet's physics kicks in. The moment the balloons are in Gonzo's hands, he's airborne. Fozzie goes to the ice cream man, and what do you know, it's Bob Hope. Piggy shows up with her bags all packed. Kermit says it was all a miscommunication. He wanted to know if she wanted to come for ice cream. Their argument is interrupted as they see Gonzo fly by and go to his rescue. But Gonzo doesn't want to be rescued. Truth be told, he's having the time of his life. Not only that, but getting back on the road allows Doc Hopper to spot them. He notices Kermit trying to catch up with Gonzo and starts shooting at the balloons. Gonzo begins his rapid descent. Fozzie gets scared and crashes into a billboard, which launches a giant cream pie at Doc Hopper and Max. Back at the carnival, Sweetums crashes through a tent that the models were using as a changing room. Once everyone is in the car, Piggy tells Kermit how impressive he was. She asks him to dinner. The guys are like, yeah, dinner! Only Piggy just wants a romantic evening with Kermit. At the restaurant, Kermit and Piggy are having a wonderful time. Until their snooty waiter Steve Martin shows up. Yeah, Kermit is being a little cheap, but Martin calls him on it. Piggy gets a phone call and, thinking it's from her agent, she leaves the table. Kermit starts chatting with the piano player while waiting for Piggy to come back. It's another familiar face, Rolf the dog. They commiserate with a nice little ditty called I Hope That Something Better Comes Along. Again, another great song that not only advances the story but tells us something about the characters. When the song is over, Kermit gets a phone call. It's Doc Hopper. He's kidnapped Piggy. So Kermit has to meet with them and trade Piggy's freedom for the job. Only it's not really a job anymore. It's Piggy's freedom for his own. Kermit steps outside and has about a zillion guns pointed at him. Goons drag him to Hopper's hideout. So now he has Kermit and Piggy. Hopper has called his old friend Professor Craftsman, an insane German scientist who has built some sort of machine that will fry parts of Kermit's brain but keep him alive as some sort of living puppet. It's one of those, no Mr. Bond, I expect you to die moments. Piggy manages to escape. She uses her kung fu to beat the stuffing out of the goons. She frees Kermit and the fight continues. During the brawl, Professor Mel Brooks is knocked into his machine and fries his own brain. They go outside and Piggy gets another phone call. This one really is from her agent. She decides to take the job and abandons Kermit and company.
Hey, Jess, wake up.
What do you mean, wake up? Can't you see I'm trying to do my review?
No, you're having a mental breakdown. You only think you're doing a review, and there is no way to record a dream.
Not true. I've been logging the whole thing. By reversing the polarity of the neutron flow while doing multimodal reflection sorting, I can totally extrapolate a second-person view. And that totally makes sense. It's not just mindless technobabble. I did not see it on one of those CSI shows. Honest.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due.
Whatever. I told you this wouldn't work.
All for the love of you. At this point, the film breaks. The crowd is getting pretty rowdy, especially Animal. In a clever bit of foreshadowing, Kermit says his big scene is coming up. You'll see what I mean in a moment. The only ones happy about the delay are, of course, Statler and Waldorf. They get upset when the movie starts up again. But no one is more happy than Robin. We cut to another song. Fozzie takes a moment out of the film to sing America the Beautiful. This tells you a little bit about Fozzie. In this trip alone, he's seen the best and worst of this country. He's seen the good outweigh the bad, and he recognizes the inherent beauty of that. Well, that and the song is public domain, so they wouldn't have to pay Paul Williams to write them another piece of music. You know, music rights being what they are, they must have saved a fortune. Meanwhile, Hopper is training his goons to be frog hunters, but since even shooting at cardboard cutouts makes them look like they went to the same marksmanship academy as Imperial stormtroopers, Hopper hires a professional bounty hunter. Now Max is pissed. Kermit and company are discussing the trip. Kermit now knows the exact time of his audition. They're discussing other matters when they come across a hitchhiker. It happens to be Miss Piggy. Piggy asks for forgiveness. Kermit is reluctant, but he's a frog in love, so he inevitably caves. They turn on the radio to find out that Hopper has taken over a whole bunch of frequencies in order to frighten Kermit. Can you imagine what it must have been like for someone out on the highway? It was the 70s, so out in the desert like that, your only choices would be country music, Christian radio, and Charles Durning issuing terroristic threats to a frog. With those as the only choices, I have to say, amphibian torture it is. I kid. Everything would be amphibian torture. Half a day's travel and 36 hours from their audition, the car breaks down. Normally I say sue the dealer for selling them a lemon, but what do you expect from a $12 car? At first they wait, think it'll be a few minutes before someone comes along, but they are there into the night. Realizing things are hopeless, the gang is downtrodden. Gonzo starts singing. If there is a song that gives Rainbow Connection a run for its money in terms of joyful sorrow, it's I'm Going to Go Back There Someday. This song helps the gang realize that they might have failed, but at least they tried. Well, all of them but Kermit. He wanders out into the desert for some self-reflection. He comes to terms with what's really bringing him down. It's not his failure, but that he failed in such a way that he brought some good, talented, creative people down with him. And in spite of not promising them that things would work out, it's still sorta his fault. He starts talking to himself. His conscience or shadow self assures him that Fozzie, Gonzo, Rolf, and Piggy aren't out there because of Kermit, but what he represents. The chance to make the world a happier place. It's a choice they made of their own volition, and they'd make it again in a heartbeat. They aren't the ones who lost faith. He is. Kermit says that isn't true. His hallucinatory other self says, if that's true, then he did make a promise to someone. But it wasn't to Fozzie, or Piggy, or Gonzo, or Rolf. It was to himself. And maybe those are the promises that matter most of all. Kermit returns to the group with his faith restored. Not only that, the electric mayhem have arrived. Kermit left the script behind at the coffee house. They saw Kermit was going to get in trouble again and decided to show up and save the day. The next morning they're driving to their audition when they get pulled over by a motorcycle cop. It turns out to be Max in disguise. He tells them about the bounty hunter and the Hopper trying to set a trap. Piggy says, why should we trust you? Max says when it was about offering Kermit a job, he was okay with that. But hurting or even killing him was a bridge too far. Kermit asks Dr. Teeth what's up ahead. He says there's an old ghost town. Kermit says to Max, Tell Hopper this is where we end this. They pull into Laramie Street on the Warner Brothers backlot. They arrive early. Kermit is prepared to go alone. But Floyd asks if he can take Animal for a walk. The three of them start wandering around the town when rain barrels start going crazy. Then they meet mad scientist Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and his assistant Beaker. They show off some of their inventions. Their newest is a pill that makes things grow to super duper size. Kermit bids Bunsen and Beaker adieu. He gets cornered by Hopper. His goons point about a zillion guns at him. The rest of the Muppets get off the tour bus and gather around. Hopper tells Kermit that all his life he's dreamed of selling fried frog legs. Kermit says he has his own dream, only it's about friendship. It's an inspiring speech that puts even Captain Jean-Luc Picard to shame. Only he makes one tiny little mistake. He says, if that doesn't make sense to you, go ahead and kill me. Hopper's frog hunter is just about to do that when the laboratory building starts shaking. Then what should burst out of the roof but a kaiju-sized animal? Hopper and his men run off. The Muppets continue on their way to Worldwide Studios. They meet with Orson Welles over Cloris Leachman's objections. Wells gives them a rich and famous contract, and they make the movie we just watched. Then, who should burst through the wall of the screening room but Sweetums? And that's it. That's the movie. Did I get what I paid for? Really? Do you even have to ask? This was my favorite movie when I was 3 years old. Here we are 37 years later and, well, other movies have taken its place. It always comes back to the number one spot. There are movies I love almost as much. The Big Lebowski, Superman, The Princess Bride, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but I don't connect to those movies in quite the same way. Most people look at Kermit the Frog and see an old green coat and some ping pong balls. Jim Henson saw a tool to teach us about our own humanity. For that reason alone, this film is sacrosanct. Sometimes, when I'm going through hard times and nothing seems to be right in the world, I'll put this movie on. Whatever I'm worried about disappears. For 95 minutes anyway. And I think reviewing this movie for you guys has fixed me. Does this mean you're ready to come back now? Yeah, I'm ready.
Good. This MindLink app is only free for a limited time. I don't think we can afford the 65 cents a month.
Come on, let's go.
There's something I've got to do first.
Look what I found under the couch. Reese's Cups, my favorite.
Okay, how long was I out?
Since Halloween. Now you have to hurry, or your 3-part Christmas episode might go 2 weeks into January.
And what's my Christmas movie?
Your Christmas movie? That would be The Flintstones Christmas Carol.
Flintstones. Bah, humbug. If you like this video,
ing, the at, the L, and subscribe. And go to patreon.com/parody air or films.